now I want to go to Bob Davidson, and hopefully, Bob, you're functioning this evening. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm functioning as well as I usually do. Let's share the screen. So welcome to Workshop Tips and Tricks. Again, this is week 11 already. Pretty interesting. So I'm sharing from my experience as a theatrical and exhibit designer and carpenter. What I wanted to start with was just a little update. Last week we talked a little bit about slicers and choppers, and I talked about how you can use Al Collins's blades on a chopper. So I figured I'd take a couple pictures and show you. Here's just I don't know if this is a Micromark one or just one out of Amazon. But basically, Al's blades, again, you'll notice that only one side is ground, the other side is flat, so it's a true chisel. And here, basically, I'm using one of the existing holes that was in the bar, and I just had to drill one other hole to mount the blade. So here's kind of what I had to do. You have to take the arm off and reverse it, because typically they're routed out to accept a single edge razor blade. So if you flip it over, you'll have a smooth surface. And then I just drilled a hole. You can also drill and tap it if you wish. And then I put in a new bolt and washer up front to support the front of the blade, and it works like a charm. So, and Al's pricing is very reasonable on the blades. And you can get them at ultimation.ca. So just wanted to go over that. So tonight's episode is Dremel Madness. I'm going to just share a few things. I always say it's going to be quick, and then I wind up with 40 slides again. Mad idea number one is track and switch cutting. The problem that I had was getting accurate perpendicular cuts on track already installed on the layout, because typically when I went in with my Dremel, no matter how hard I tried, I was going in at an angle. So the solution is this Dremel 565 multi-purpose cutting kit. This is the Dremel I use over on the layout. I have a plug-in one that I use at the workbench, but this Dremel Lite, it's a real nice little unit. Battery, it has lithium-ion battery in it. You charge it up via USB. Great little unit. And then these are these these Easy Lock cutting discs. They're 1.5 inches in diameter. It uses that Easy Lock system that Dremel has. And these you get the thin ones, they're less than 1 millimeter thick. And what I rigged up was just using a piece of very light foam. So this is a piece of, I think it's 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch foam. And you can see I'm doing some cuts. I'm putting a bridge in on the layout. And you just lay the Dremel on the foam and then just push down on the body of it. So you can position it over the track rail. And then if you just push down, it keeps it perpendicular, and you'll get a nice clean cut through the track. So that's our little mad idea number one with a Dremel. Number two is switch throw slot cutting. So making clean, accurate slots through homobed and substrate to put in a slot for the throws on switches. And what I use is the Dremel 565 multi-purpose cutting kit, which looks just like a little router base. And those are actually little, if you're familiar with the zip cutters that you use to cut through drywall to put in outlets and stuff like that, that's what these bits are. They're just helical cutting bits. And the process is I drill 2 holes 1/8 of an inch apart, or 2 1/8 inch holes 1/2 inch apart, centered on the throw location. I use the zip bit and the straight edge to connect the holes. And then I made up a little template that you can see here. I use tortoise machines. So I made up this little template, and that 1/2 inch tab that sticks through it, which shows where the they spec like over a 3/4 inch slot. I only did a 1/2 inch slot. It's more than enough. I can shove that up through the slot that I've made, and it kind of nests on the bottom of the substrate, and then I can drill the mounting holes for the tortoise. So kind of neat, quick way to do them. Mad idea number 3 is routing grooves. You can't see the work surface when you're working with a Dremel. A lot of times you can't see the bit. Well, I saw this grout removal rotary tool attachment, and it's kind of cool. It sets your Dremel at an angle, and then it's got that big viewing slot there. I'm still playing with this, but you have to do a little modification. There are little nubs on the bottom that are made to run in the grout lines. So you just sand those off and then sand down a little bit on the sides to give yourself a straight edge. It works pretty cool to do, lines in concrete, or I haven't tried it doing brick yet or anything. And you use just a standard Dremel bit. As you can see, you can adjust the depth. So it's kind of a cool thing. Next one is a tool holder. The problem is keeping the tool steady while also holding the part. And if you're like me and you have shaky hands, it can be quite a challenge. So what I did was I fabricated a little Dremel holder. I saw that the thread on the end of a Dremel, if you take the cap off, it's a 1/2" 12 thread, which is not a standard SAE thread, but it's actually a UK thread. I found a distributor locally here that has English nuts, for lack of a better term. So it's a 3/4 12 nut. I welded it to a little piece of 3/8 hex stock that I got from McMaster Carr. And it lets me chuck the Dremel in a vise. So I can use it for grinding, for sanding, whatever, cutting small tubes, stuff like that. It just works out really well. The hex stock allows me to set it at a lot of different angles. So it's just a neat little solution to basically give yourself an extra hand when you're working with a Dremel. Bonus mad idea, and I just saw this by chance today. I was looking for something else on Amazon, and they must know I was thinking about Dremels. It's this little dust blower. So what it does, it replaces the collet nut on a Dremel. And it's a little fan thing. So if you're doing any, especially in plaster or hydrocal, it blows the dust away. There's a couple of cool videos with this online, and $3.40.
This is
kind of neat. Tool of the week, caulk tube caps. I don't know how about you guys, but I always go to the shelf to grab a tube of caulk and find that it's dried out. So there's a bunch of different ones out there, all under $5. Home Depot sells the DAP cap, which I've used, which works really well. I use that on the latex caulk I used to put down bed, and God, it would last 6 months, 9 months. Lowe's just sells the ones on the right, which I don't think are as good, because once you stick that prong down into the tube, basically you're throwing it away when you're done with it. So, and then of course on Amazon, there are caulking condoms. They're actually called little peckers, but you can get them on Amazon, and basically it's like a condom that rolls over the end of a caulk tube. So just something to think about. Tonight's neat website is parts-express.com, and we'll get them up here. Parts Express is kind of a cool site. They tend to specialize in audio equipment, but they do have a lot of things, especially what they're good for, switches and other small parts. We use these guys all the time to buy switches for our displays. Their pricing is really good, and they have an incredible assortment of stuff. So if you ever need it, it's partsexpress.com. The other thing they're good for is they're a major supplier of Meanwell power supplies. So if you're looking for power supplies, again, their pricing is pretty good. They have a pretty good range of voltages as well as amperages on the Meanwell products. So I highly recommend you check out, and that's partsexpress.com. So that's tonight's episode. I'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll be doing Lighting 102. We're going to look at gobos, which are patterns, gels, diffusion, and a bunch more to talk about lighting. So